In this Star Wars Outlaws video, I will be reviewing the art of Star Wars Outlaws book for you. I will be showing you some of the awesome pages that are included in the book, which feature incredible insights on how the developers made the game. It is truly fantastic, and I can't wait to share my full thoughts with you, but before that, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws news updates. So, there are a few required notes before I do get into the review that I want you to hear. Firstly, the publisher of the book, Dark Horse, sent me a review copy a few weeks in advance, so I had time to make this video for when it does come out. I am only allowed to show a few select pages from the book itself for this review, so that's what you'll see throughout this video, per my review agreement with Dark Horse. The book is now available to purchase from Dark Horse themselves or all your other favourite book retailers such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Forbidden Planet, WH Smith's, places like that. The retail price is $55 or £45, however, many retailers have been having it on discount. It is a hardback book, and it comes with this awesome cover, which has artwork that goes from the front, across the spine, and round the back. There is an ebook version available as well. This is different from the digital art book included within the Ultimate Edition, which some of you may own. That was a fun digital experience, but it is not as in-depth as this book, and it doesn't contain the 200 odd pages worth of artwork or information. There are over 200 pages featured in this book, and most of them have lots of awesome artwork on them. However, there are a few pages that have some photos from the behind the scenes of the development of the game when it came to the motion capture stuff, which is a really awesome segment towards the end of the book. But let's take a look at what I found to be most interesting about the book, what I liked the most, what I didn't, and things like that. So let's start with the layout, and it works out pretty well. It covers all the things you'd expect. You have sections dedicated to the main characters such as Kay, Nyx, ND5 and so on. Each planet also has a chapter as well, so you can really get into detail of all of the different planets available in the game. Lots of the book focuses on the world building aspect of this game, how they came about with coming up with a lot of the new stuff for Star Wars canon, as well as taking existing things such as Kijimi, working with the constraints of established canon so they don't step on the toes of other media, but also expanding upon it, and they actually had some freedom with doing that. It covers most of the game, and it does feature some spoilers, so if you haven't played the game in full, I would recommend doing that first before reading the book. One thing I am disappointed about is that there is nothing on the DLC in this book, so you won't see anything from A Pirate's Fortune or Wildcard whatsoever. I was really hoping with the delay of the book that they would sneak in just a few pages of the DLC in there, but unfortunately none of that does exist in this book. Lots of the concept art is already out online, which is great, posted by the developers themselves, but I would have preferred to have more insights, because what this book does is it supplements what we've seen already. Yes, lots of the artwork is out online, but this book actually contains a lot of brand new artwork, but also lots of talk from the development team about how they actually got to that final piece of concept art and how it turned out in the game. If you have read through the Art of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor books, this will be similar territory to you. It's a very similar book in a sense that it's just full of artwork. However, what I liked about this book over those books is that there is way more in-depth detail on the development of the game. They actually talk about the iteration process, where they were going at one point with something, but then they had to change for various reasons, and how they got to that final outcome. They don't shy away from different ideas they had that just didn't work for various reasons, and I appreciate that. It just went way more in-depth in the development of the game and the artwork itself compared to the Jedi game books, which I think really sets this book apart from that one. There is a lot more text to read, and I appreciate that. The artwork is phenomenal. There is so much great artwork in this book, just like the Jedi game books. However, I would say that this one is more engaging when it comes to the behind the scenes of the game, which, as someone who likes that stuff, yeah, I love that about this book. It really does a good job. The only downside is, I wish there was so much more of it. The book starts by taking a look at the earliest concepts of the game, back when they didn't have a K or a Nyx. In fact, Nyx was actually depicted as a BB unit, a droid. It is fantastic to see essentially the very first sketches and fully fledged pieces of concept art for this game, back when they just had a simple idea, being a scoundrel and exploring the galaxy as an open world game. These pages of the earliest state of the game in terms of its concept stage is fascinating because it actually feels like the game already, but at such an early stage. You already get that vibe of what the game is, and you see that in the final game. During this early stage of the book, as well as in other parts of the book, there are these really small sketches. They are the earliest things they made for various aspects of the game, and they are just so cool to look at. These are just a lot more interesting to look at than some other pieces of concept art we get typically for other games. We learn in the book that they used various parts of concept art in the game, so they appear as advertising screens, so they actually were able to reuse things they enjoyed in the concept art that didn't end up making it into fruition for the final game, but they managed to sneak it in as textures for the advertised boards, which is pretty cool. I like the evolution of the game the book takes us through. We see the earliest piece of concept art with just a woman and an X-Wing and a BB unit, and then we start and see a starfighter that is more closer to what the Trailblazer ends up looking like. There were some pieces of concept art that used placeholders from the films, so there were screenshots of the films such as The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens that were overlaid on pieces of concept art, and they used that to form sort of the feeling of where they was going, whether it be in Akiva or places like that. One of the more interesting parts of the book was the target gameplay section, where they effectively built the core of the game, and they had this really early concept art which shows Kay at an early stage. The Trailblazer started to take a little bit more of a shape. There was a companion in the form of a B1 droid with an interesting head that would become ND5. I already made a video on this already, but the concept art you see of Kay with this sort of short hair and ND5 with this B1 body and unique droid head, those models are actually in the game files. They used these when they were developing the game early on. We get to see concept art from all stages of Kay's development. She undergoes a lot of different designs, and it's pretty cool to see so much of that. Same with Nyx as well. These pages drop really interesting bits of lore. For example, Kay's jacket was one that took a lot of iteration. They love the idea of the red jacket, but they found it to be quite stark and not subtle for a thief to wear. Ultimately, they switched to blue, and you can actually unlock the red one as an unlock early on in the game, so they didn't completely cut it, which was nice to see. Nyx went through tons of concepts. I would say a lot of them look quite more like Pokemon than what we actually ended up getting in the final game. There is also some really awesome artwork as well of ND5 that makes use of different types of droids, not just B1 droids, more humanoid droids, and then ultimately they settled on just being a commando droid. They went through all this development, creating some fantastic looking designs, and they ended up just settling for a design that was a droid that was basically unchanged for the most part, with a coat. Canto Bight's worker district also underwent a lot of design changes according to this book, so they had police eviction notices around the location and covered everything with a layer of dust. There was even a small six-kin location around the foot of a walker crane, but in the end this location didn't fit into the narrative and was not used in the game. Slayro's mansion also underwent a lot of different design changes. They said that it felt too much like a hotel rather than a private residence. Another aspect cut from the game is an underground transport system which connected the mansion to the vault. A really interesting note on a specific location in the game making use of Return of the Jedi is the throne room in Jabba's palace. The team did not create any concept art for it. The reason being, they went to enormous lengths to recreate the throne room on a 1-to-1 scale. How they did this is really interesting. So they used the original blueprints that were made for Return of the Jedi's set, plus behind the scenes footage, to create the fully realised 360-degree and explorable throne room. So this might be the most accurate representation of Jabba's throne room in any Star Wars media. Speaking of Jabba, the team say they went to extreme lengths to get every single detail right about him, such as the tattoo on his arm. His eyes on the final model used a specifically made shader that gave the team greater control when bringing him to life. So again, this might also be the most accurate iteration of Jabba we've seen since Return of the Jedi as well. A few things on Akiva now. So Temin Wexley was actually designed late in the process, and they even had a Great Lake monster that was going to be like the Krayt Dragon on Tatooine in that it was going to be an event that players could experience, but it did not make it into the final game. On top of the planets, we got to see iterations of things like K-Speeder. I've already mentioned the Trailblazer, but there was a big section on the Trailblazer as well, showing off how it had more wings and underwent so many design changes before they ultimately landed on what we had. It's pretty cool to see all the different directions they were looking at and where they ended up going. Lots of props also got to look at in this book as well, so you got to see design changes for various things that we see in the game that you can actually use and interact with. Storyboards also have their own section, so you got to see a bunch of the storyboards for the various cutscenes in the game, which is pretty cool. I didn't expect this to be part of it, so that's nice to see. And there was also some information about how they came up with the various cover arts in the game, which I really appreciated. That's something that I wished more games did. How did they arrive on the cover art of this game? Well, this game actually shows some different iterations, different designs they had in mind for the standard edition cover art, the ultimate edition cover art, and things like that. The book ends with some very interesting concept art, really early pieces of concept art that just never ended up coming to fruition in the game, such as Bespin and Cloud City, among other things. They also show photos taken on set when they were filming the motion capture of various cutscenes. It just looks like a really good time on that set, and yeah, this sort of stuff is so awesome, and you don't usually get these in art books, so I do appreciate they added a little bit more to it than just showing us concept art that some of us may have seen before. So all in all, I think if you are a fan of this game and you want to learn more about the development aspects of this game, then you definitely need to check out this book. It's fantastic, it has fantastic artwork, it's got great insights from the developers. It really shows what the developers were going for and how they arrived at the final destination. It's just done really, really well. I respect them for showing off things that didn't end up coming to fruition or why they decided against certain things. More of that needs to happen in the games industry. Be more open, more transparent. It'll help people be more understanding about those decisions. If you do want to purchase this book, there will be a link down below in the description. Using that link does help support me. I will receive a small amount of commission from what you end up paying. I would recommend this book. It's a lot of fun, and I think Star Wars Outlaws fans will be very, very happy with what they do receive. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything I talked about in this video, so please do let me know down in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like to help support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws videos, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on the screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.